All right, awesome. It is good to be back. Like I said, we have almost a full crew tonight. We are missing Alejandro. He might jump in later. Maybe he's sleeping. We're not exactly sure where he's at. But we have a fun episode for you guys tonight. So we're going to be covering, um, going over Kubla last weekend, going over First Player Championship, maybe touch on the War of the Night King, the big European tournaments that happened in Prague. We're going to be looking forward to UK Nats. And with UK Nats comes those grand prizes that we all got to see. If you haven't got to see them yet, we're going to talk about those a little bit. They are pretty sweet, in my opinion. And then we're just going to look forward to what the Bear Box does to the meta, or what we think it does, more broad terms. But we really are going to try to get into that. Just try to relieve some people. The sky is not falling. The game is fine. Sure, we'd like to see some changes, but we're here, and we're going to talk about the game for a while. So, hope you can join us. So, going to that, we want to talk about Kubla.
Yeah, let's move right into Kubla.
So, our very own Mr. Chris Thompson made it to the finals at Kubla. Congratulations, sir.
Thanks, dog.
It's a great run. Our other Wars to Come host, the Cow himself, got top 4 there. So we had a good showing. I was very proud of the guys, for sure. Now, hats off to Tim. I've never met Tim. I think he's a local guy that doesn't travel very much, but obviously he was competent, played through a really tough field, so my hat's off to him. And yeah, he's going to Europe. That's exciting. Team America. So,
fuck yeah.
Yeah, so tell us about your Kubla experience, CT.
There was a lot of blue cards. There was a lot of whitish gray cards.
Sure.
So.
Well, what did you play?
I played Greyjoy Sea of Blood.
Okay. And that was the most popular deck for sure. I think the field was 61% Stark and Greyjoy at Kubla and 60% at First Player.
Yeah, there was a lot of Greyjoy Sea, a lot of Greyjoy Crossing, a lot of Stark Fealty, a lot of Stark Crossing, one Stark Hollow Hill.
Mr. Ebri himself.
Yeah.
Always just ready to PD some folks.
Yeah. But, yes.
Which I will say that I think PD is in an insane place right now in the meta. I think PD is in a really good spot.
Yeah, I mean, most of these decks at the top right now have like 18 to 21 locations on them, so it's pretty reasonable.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like, sometimes we talk about how, like, oh, House X is at the top, but, like, it seems that way, it's not really that bad, you don't really feel it. This is probably the first, like, tournament over 30 people where it really just felt like two houses slamming into each other over and over and over again, in a miserable kind of way.
So, I will say that, like, it's weird because this is, like, one of the few games that, like, when we have two decks, or like multiple decks over two houses, or a few decks over two houses, and 60% of the field brings it, that feels like a negative thing. And I'm not saying that I enjoy that or I don't enjoy it. I'm just saying, like, in every other competitive card game, 60% of the field is usually there with the same 2 or 3 decks. Like, that's just, like, efficiency in a card game. It's a little bit different for Thrones because I don't think enough is flushed out because we just don't have as much players. There's not enough tournaments. But, like, I was not at all shocked by that number because that's just the numbers you see, right? Like,
yeah. That was exactly the percentage I was expecting to run into. That's why.
And you were playing for a European trip. Like, people are going to bring what they think is the best deck.
Yep.
Right.
Agreed on that.
I think there would be lots of Greyjoy and Stark, and I was not disappointed as far as expectation.
So what led to your decision to play Greyjoy over Stark?
Jesse was constantly telling me to play Greyjoy, and I was playing a lot of Greyjoy, and, like, so it's like, we have a Stark build where I was tweaking it a lot to beat Stark and Greyjoy, and it was less fun to me than playing the Greyjoy that was tweaked to beat Greyjoy and Stark. So ultimately, I just decided to play Greyjoy, and I do think that while they're both good, Greyjoy gets way more free wins.
Yep.
Just off of ridiculous interactions. Or just like a first turn we do not tow, or a put to the torch, or a night flyer, and just stealing an opponent's key location on the first turn can lead to way more free wins than...
I think the deck we figured out for you was it could beat Stark, and then the mirror we tried to tech to beat it, but it was still a toss up because Greyjoy just gets so many free wins off just variants, right? Like,
right.
They can just nut out things in turn 1 and just ruin your life, and we take Westeros your turn 2 and just, well, good game, boys. It broke my heart because if I was going, I would have played Big Wall, no matter what I told other people to play. And you got paired up against Alex Esposito, and
I did. First game, first round.
Esposito, there was a little part of me, buddy, that was really pulling for you. I love Big Wall so much. Then he just... And then we took Westeros and all 3 of his losses. And I was like...
So why would you have recommended New Wall going into that tournament, Jesse?
I would not have. I said I would have played.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I recommended Greyjoy C. I would have played... New Wall just because it's my favorite deck. Or I honestly probably would have played Conclave, but yeah, I think it was a little scary to me just how much Greyjoy and Stark was there, but I wasn't unexpecting or anything like that. But it just goes to show you the power level of the New Agendas crossing and Sea of Blood, where I think a lot of those decks got there just based on their agenda and the cards, and then Stark Fealty is just... I know I've said this several times, but I think people are starting to realize Fat Cat is busted, dog.
I definitely like Hand's Judgments and Vince's were very integral to me beating Stark all day.
Yep.
And stealing Winterfells, which I did like literally 4 fucking times or something. It was absurd. Some games I even blew up multiple Winterfells. We won't get into that painful experience.
For certain.
So like I said, hats off again to 10 and CT for making the final. You were so close, man. Seriously, great run. It was a really tough field. There were a lot of power hitters out there.
It was. It's like playing such strong variance heavy decks and having to play against such good players all day is like exhausting.
Yeah, and like it goes to show you, like most of those top level players that chose to play Greyjoy or Stark ended up at the top. So best players taking the best deck usually turns out to be a good ordeal.
Do you feel like there were any players who made like notable risks that didn't pan out in their deck decisions on the day?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw one.
An insane player.
Yeah.
And she went like 1-3 or something with playing Old Wall Fealty, Night's Watch. So like, I mean, I don't remember the last time she had a bad showing in a big tournament.
Right, but I mean more so like players that made decisions based on like meta calls that didn't pan out. I'm not sure if Mira thought that was going to be a well-positioned deck. Specifically, like on social media, she was saying that she was playing a meme deck. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know. Okay.
But I'm curious more so like players who made bad meta calls. Like, what the expectations going into the tournament obviously were that Greyjoy and Stark would be heavily represented.
I mean, Esposito's a great player. He took Big Wall. He's still here saying all 3 of his Greyjoy Sea of Blood opponents just stole his wall. But he thought like because the Big Wall
does that come down to a bad meta decision then?
Yeah, because I mean like so like if you can protect your wall, like New Wall can't just crush big guy decks. Because like if I steal a 7-coster, well, it's pretty tough. If I steal 2 7-costers, oh, we're off to the races now.
You would almost think that the existence of We Take Westeros in a deck that's 30% of the field would largely rule out a deck like New Wall in a tournament where you have hundreds of dollars in the line.
Let me look at some players.
I think Neil's Bear deck was really like...
Well, Bear beats Greyjoy.
Yeah, he was expecting to just like beat Greyjoy all day, and he definitely did that, but I guess he underestimated his Stark matchup.
Well, he lost at Targ Wolf. playing Barber, who won last year, and then he lost to Stark, but he beat every Greyjoy he played.
Yeah.
And so the Targ Wolf deck that Barber played, was there anything interesting about that deck?
I'm not sure if that was still like a variation of the one that
I mean, CT, you were there. Did you see it?
I did not play against Barber, and I actually don't think I got to watch Barber play the games either. So.
Louise is a great player. He took Martell Hollow Hill. I'm not sure if that was a meta call that he thought was correct.
Matt Lay? Yeah, Matt Lay took Martell
Sea of Blood. He just really wanted to play Martell Hollow Hill. That's what he told me.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Matt Lay took Sea of Blood, Martell. So I feel like that was their way of thinking, that's going to be a counter too. But,
yeah, traditionally, Martell Sea of Blood has a pretty good matchup against Greyjoy if it sees like.
You have the icon stripping.
Yeah, if you can strip like 2 icons first turn, you can usually stabilize. But
so I think the reason these decks are so much better while they've gotten there is because, like even when you're playing answers against these decks, like you still have to see your answers before they see their good cards, and they're just that much more efficient than you. Yeah. Like Greyjoy didn't have draw before, but now Greyjoy can just go fetch what events they need, and if they see Asha, it's so tough. Because then and then now we take Westeros as just a very overpowered plot, in my opinion. It's where you could just swing the game with one plot, and the initiative is just insane. And then Stark, it's hard to outplay Stark because their cards are just better than yours.
Yeah. I will going back to the big wall though, because I mean, we've played a lot behind the scenes with the big wall. I would say Greyjoy is not a bad matchup for big wall. It does suck, sounding from with Alex's position. Sometimes in a real tournament, you just get bad draws, you get bad luck. Like, it happens. And
like, I don't ever get mad when I lose a big wall to we take Westeros because my only win condition is also Barriers.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't ever get,
I've never had. I mean, big wall has answers.
Game of RNG, and I like to gamble.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Big Wall has answers between Hardhome, Mutiny, Craven. It can stop big guy decks, so I wouldn't be sad Alex taking that deck at all.
Right, and it's a different story if you play against Crossing compared to Steve, right? Because Crossing is not necessarily just going to fetch the card that fucks you on the first turn either. So it's like
if you would have seen Crossing versus Sea of Blood, I do think New Wall beats Crossing pretty easily, actually.
Yeah. In RNG,
it has so much attrition.
Yeah. In our green site can RNG the Greyjoy player as much as they can you. Like, I mean, hey, Balon, Vic.
You play Conclave, I could just head for you.
But you're right. Like when you say it's like an RNG fest, like it's a monster, it's RNG fest. Like Alex did green site my Asha first turn.
Hell yeah!
But if I didn't have one to just play, you could have played the one Stoner. But because I was first player,
you had 2?
I had an Asha in my hand.
You
I could just
fucking coward!
CT luck. That's CT luck.
I mean, he also.
I will say, Alex.
You could have went first and played the wall and took my Asha first. But.
I will say, Alex, that CT felt so bad about it. And he knew that it would upset me, but he messaged me. He was like, I felt bad about what happened to Alex. Like, I didn't mean to do it. Because he, CT does like Big Wall, too. I do feel that this meta discussion is getting probably a little too far off the rails with Big Wall.
What? What did you just say?
Yeah, if I can rein it back in.
Yeah.
As someone who has been a little bit out of touch with the meta as of late, what do you think the Greyjoy Sea of Blood versus what I presume to be the most common variant of Stark right now, which is like some sort of Fat Cat build?
It's like Wama's deck mixed with my Reigns deck.
So what do we think that matchup plays out in like 1,000 games? Like who's favorite?
55-45 Stark Fealty.
I would say that's pretty accurate.
And if the 2 players at the table are equal level, 55-45 Stark Fealty. But if you pillage a Winterfell, then that really flips the percentage. But I would say in 1,000 games, 55-45.
But on the other side of things, like if the Greyjoy Sea isn't packing multiple hands judgments, I think that their win percentage goes way down.
Yep.
Because you have to stop no surprises.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
So
well, yeah, I think we're obviously going to talk later in the episode about what we think players can do to beat the Stark Fealty and Greyjoy Seas of the world.
So
maybe it's
that's
time
a really tough thing. Is like you can have a meta call.
Right.
I think it's really tough because you have decks that beat Greyjoy.
Right. But keeping it in focus of the tournament and Kubla itself, did you think, CT, that there was anything else really notable that happened with the tournament? I know you mentioned briefly Neil's Barra deck, which I definitely thought was interesting.
I think if Neil's Barra deck can get over the hump of dealing with Stark's non-kneeling guys, like resetting characters in the challenge phase with Skagos, that deck seemed really strong. Like it can completely shut somebody's challenge phase down.
I think it gets a lot of love with the box.
Sure. Maybe it's a really shadow focused deck though, and the box isn't adding anything to that.
I think Bear Control is going to be good.
Well, sure. Jesse keeps trying to lead us into our other topics, so maybe it's a good time to move to first player.
Sure. One last thing, real quick, because we were on the topic of like, what did the other decks do in that tournament? And I would tell people check out James Walmsley's stat sheet. That blew my mind. The win rates of Stark and Greyjoy compared to everyone else, and that what really showed me like the dominance.
What is the sample size of that? I saw that sheet, but I was not aware of I think that was all-time records for faction agenda combinations. Am I right? Or am I thinking of something else?
That was a different one. That was a different one.
I think Alejandro posted it.
Yeah, Alejandro posted that.
Okay. I might not have seen Llama's post.
Yeah, it's in one of the mini talks. I think probably one of Robert Mixer's posts.
Okay, I see. Thanks.
But yeah, it showed that
Mike Schober did it from Chicago.
Yeah.
He broke down statistics since the Greyjoy box came out because he was unsure about the statistics, and we're in the Chicago Discord, and I was like, no, I think this, and this. He's like, I'm not sure. So he broke down the statistics, and I was right. The Greyjoy and Stark's winning percentage since the Greyjoy box is just absolutely nutter butters.
Someone's saying in the Discord chat, it was since John got Fnatic, basically since the free cancels, Greyjoy has been top house.
Makes sense.
Someone put that in there.
Also,
anybody have any closing thoughts on Kubla before we move on?
Shout out to Tim again. Congratulations.
Absolutely.
Good job to Sid, who ran a great tournament, I hear.
Yeah.
And good run again, CT and Alejandro.
10 out of 10. We'll do again.
Yeah.
Even if the meta is bad, Kubla's always a good event.
Would lose again.
Would lose again, yeah. 10 out of 10. Would get my ass beat in a final. That was one of the worst brownies I've had in a while.
Oh my god, dude. So, literally, Schoenthal is breaking down for me, like, play for play. And the top 4 match against Eric was, like, riveting. Like,
my game with me and Eric's game in the top 4 was probably the most compelling match of the day.
Like, CT took an early lead, and then Eric saw some cards. So Eric like almost got close and put it on him, and then
Eric also got 2 turns on me with no surprises, where I just couldn't play them. I couldn't bring cards out of shadows. So
I think the hand judging was super vital in that game. Yeah, that was a good game, and then he was breaking down the finals for me, and like top of turn 2, it was over.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Like he still walked it through to me, and I'm just like, this is a fucking beat down. I'm like forwarding all these messages to the indie chat, and like they're like, I mean, it was ugly. It was really ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, every card that Tim didn't see saw, and CT didn't see a lot of cards, so. I mean, it was. I mean, still, hats off to Tim. It's not easy to take down a big tournament like that. But,
I mean, he made the right choice. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been beating good players all day. Like,
absolutely.
He made the right call.
So first player, I was actually not able to go this year, but Mr. Aaron Groth did get to go defend his title. He had a top 8 finish with. He went the other route with Stark Sea of Blood, because someone was a coward when he takes me wall. Even though he promised me he would.
I did promise. There was a promise.
You made the right decision, Groth.
Yeah, I broken promise. Yeah.
You made a better decision, right? Anyway.
So Groth, tell us about first player.
So this year was another 30, which was good. Compilation was just the surrounding areas of Missouri. Got to take someone from Denver. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I was a coward. I decided to take Stark. Just because King Rob. I've always wanted to play that card in a tournament. And
some of us have.
Yeah, I've never have. So yeah, me and CT were talking about it. We were playing some games, make some changes, and I just decided to stick with it.
I helped Groth tweak his Stark deck so that I could just decide like 2 weeks before Kubla, like, all right, I'm gonna play Greyjoy now.
Yeah. But
at least you have the Stark deck we've been working on.
It was so funny about King Rob. So like, in the Lance show the other day, Johnny Wright is like talking about like who would have ever played King Rob before Sea of Blood, and like seconds go by, and then Shumfall just like tags me really quick, and I'm like, I played King Rob exclusively. I did never play the other Rob. Like,
I don't play a lot of Stark in tournaments, but I'm always positive I've played more King Rob in decks than I've ever played Core Rob.
He's like, I'm not saying like both of them are really good. I really like the other one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Jim Hanson's been playing King Rob since it came out. So.
Yeah, he
did.
Thing is, that's Stark Rose deck.
After Nationals, I will never play Core Rob again because my King Robs will be way too fucking pretty.
That's true.
Sure.
Yeah, so I just continue to play it with Todd Jansen. Shout out to him and Tim Eberwine out here in Colorado. We tested it. We got at least 40 games to go total, 40, 50 before all said and done after CT bailed on us. So so we decided we made some changes.
Make fun of someone for bailing when you bailed originally.
I know I bailed on you. I got it.
Yeah, bailing the bailer.
I got it. But I'm trying to pass the buck here. Anyways, Anyways, we made some changes real quick. We decided that Wyman Manley wasn't doing what we wanted to do, so we went with Ward. It was a good surprise all day.
You did not discuss those changes with me.
Yeah, he didn't discuss those changes with me either.
I did not. And Ward was a good call all day. Nobody was expecting it. And then we went.
I don't say this to very many people. You were wrong.
Yeah, we went to First Snow, which was an interesting decision because of a lot of our low cost characters, but it ended up working out except for Greyjoy. You just need VD. That was just basically what it was. So those are our two big changes, and then going throughout the day, we just ran into Greyjoy. Basically, just crushed each other because it was quickly after first, second round, Greyjoy Stark were on top, and then it was just Greyjoy Stark all day long.
That's kind of the big thing we should probably touch on is that both of it for Kubla and first player, like it was a conscious decision to like try and lean the decks into not having resets as hard as possible, which was risky.
Yep. Very risky.
It definitely broke my heart because the deck that I convinced CT to play, we were both worried about it because I did not put a reset in the deck. So I thought people would play around it.
That would not have saved me in the final anyway.
I know, that's what you say. But the final, I took CT's loss a lot harder than he did. I cried quite a bit that night. Yeah. I was very upset. But Robert Mixer, who's a good buddy of mine, he's Illinois. I don't know why it says Iowa in here. They're Illinois boys.
They're Illinois Quincy boys. Yeah.
But he went undefeated on the day, and just he had to run through all three of his boys in a row. When I was following it, I was like, "Oh, that's funny. Him and Tyler have to play each other. Oh, him and Shannon have to play each other. Oh, him and Jeff have to play each other. Him and Tyler have to play each other again." So he just played a Quincy tournament for 4 rounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Robert for taking it down with Greyjoy Crossing. I don't think Crossing is good as Sea of Blood, but I just think Robert has played Greyjoy exclusively, and he's just a really good player.
Alanis changed Crossing a lot, though. I will say that. Just just playing against her
like,
and watching her. She changes it for sure.
Andres, like, I think Seabot is better, but, like, Andres is insane with crossing, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know what I didn't get a play-by-play in the second game, but in the first game, CT just got wrecked by Andres.
Yeah. So our first game was just like he pulled silence, I evinced, he had events.
Yep.
The game was over. The second time I played Andres, I just set up a Euron and a Great Hall because I was fairly certain he didn't have March, and I had to keep the hand because it just had 2 vents in it. And that's the story of that game. Actually, the second game was like a real grind, and there was like lots of like weird scenarios. Like we talked about on Facebook a little bit. Like I was pinching my own guys just to block raiding longship characters. Like it was actually pretty wild. But like at the end of the day, like the early efficiency and having more cancels set the pace for the game. So that's just kind of where Greyjoy and Heroes are at the moment. So I don't necessarily think Sea or Crossing are better one or the other, but
yeah. But I will say shout out to Brett. He's the one to runner up. He created a really cool Stark Dragon. That Shadows. Yeah, that Shadows chick for the dragon. She's good. She is good.
I was going to ask you, do you think that the dragon banner sort of separated Brett from the rest of the Stark
Absolutely.
players?
I had to go against Stark Dragon twice back to back, and it was both grueling against him and Spencer. Because I mean, just the sheer odds of like trying to block a challenge and getting your own challenge is difficult because you're like, I don't know if that's Mira in there. I don't know if it's the dragon chick. Like, is it Ice coming? Like it was tough on the decisions, and then he had Fast Eddie just running you. He just ran it down your throat too. So there's a lot of threats that deck just pulled out quick. Because
I messed with the Stark Dragon for a little bit right after the chick came out because I really like her.
Yeah.
And I messed with the Stark Dragon cohort. I'm very surprised. I want to know the build because I struggled with draw in the deck because like to efficiently grab the Targ cards, you had to take out some of the draw.
Yeah.
From Stark. But I've always been a big fan of Stark Dragon.
Yeah. He played the Loyalist. He played, of course, Wyman. So, yep. I mean, he may just had a good day, and he saw those cards, because his draw was not a problem against me.
Hard to just have a good day over going 6-2 over 8 rounds.
Absolutely.
Sounds like he just built a good deck and crushed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I just say watch out for that, because that was a really good deck, and there's a lot of threats, and he played the right attachments.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, the top 8 of this was pretty similar. There was one off the beaten path deck outside of the Stark Dragon is still a Stark deck, so I'm not going to completely say that's off the beaten path.
Absolutely.
We had the Targ Hollow Hill deck by just Matt Phillips, who just kind of always plays off the beaten path stuff.
Yep.
He went 3-3, but he did top 8.
He started out really well.
Yeah,
deck
Matt's a great player.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly. And I thought that Targ would be a decent call against Greyjoy, but I thought it would struggle against Stark, and that's what it looks like it did.
No surprises. That's all you have to say.
I'm Targ. I have Danny, and I'll sit on 5 gold. Okay, no surprises. Poop. That sucks.
That sucks.
I'll sit here.
Yeah, I was pretty high on Targ. Post this restricted list, I was still super, super high on Targ, and no surprises did a lot of damage in that regard.
Yeah. A lot of people just think the card is fine. I think no surprises is a little bit of a problem. I'm very surprised that no one else is saying that. I think that when the new Shadows agenda comes out and people want to play cool Shadow stuff, and then they get wrecked by no surprises turn 1 and 2 and just get ran over, I think they're very quickly going to be like, oh, no surprises sucks. Yeah, and Sea of Blood could just go find it.
Yes. That's what I did all day.
Yep.
It's really weird that they printed a card that just shuts down the theme of the previous and current cycles. It's irritating.
Yeah.
I agree, and they printed it house specific. If that was a neutral card, okay, maybe. I still don't like it, but giving it to one house is weird to me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so talking about the meta and stuff like that, I think that can kind of lead us into UK Nats and what we think we're going to see there and what we think we're not going to see there. Do we think we're going to see similar? And before we really talk about that, I want to talk about the prizes because I want to know if the prizes will truly have an effect on the meta breakdown. Because, like, the top 2 get playmats, right?
Yeah, so you just want to run through the prizes now?
Yeah, you can do that.
Alright, cool. I had the window open and now I don't. Fuck. Alright, so the top, basically, they're really rewarding house loyalty for Nats this year, like, super hard. So, if you were in the top 8 of your house, you get, like, some of those, like, world style, really hard to get, like, really nice, I guess you call them full bleeds, because it's just character art, but, like, with new backgrounds based on their banners. And then top 4 get versions of their gates, which we've obviously found to be super playable for basically every house.
Yep.
Besides, like, maybe Targ. And then...
One day there'll be a sick Targ co-war build.
Right, I'm sure that one will get super used as time goes on. And then top 2 get playmats with whatever the character was. And then there's kind of like a blanket top 8 prize of house cards and Clegane tokens. So they're really pushing people to try and play diverse houses, it looks like, by kind of making the price support more unique and catered towards people playing an even amount of houses, which is interesting.
Very interesting.
I think it's going to make these really hard to get promos, for sure.
Yeah. Do we think that it will happen, though?
I doubt it. Now, so, like, the thing is, like, generally, Europeans are a lot more varied anyway, right? Like,
yeah.
Yes.
They're going to play what they want to play. They're not going to play the best deck if they really just don't want to play the best deck. So I think that while UK Nats will look a lot more interesting than things stateside, like, I don't think the prizes are going to skew anything.
And when you say different, how big of a percentage do you think Greydwing Stark is going to make? If the American and the European meta, because, like, War of the Night King was 57.
Thank you. If you look at JP, Europeans are not being any different right now with Greydwing Stark.
Yeah, so, like, what percentage do we think is going to happen?
I was going to say, like, 8 to 10% less.
Oh.
But maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it will be 55 or higher.
I'm going 60 plus.
Ooh, man, they don't even give you the right Victorian though.
It is
yeah, that's
Nationals.
True. I mean, yeah. So what's on the line for Nationals for them, right?
But that's the thing, right? Is Nationals? Do you still get like a free ride to Worlds?
Yeah, that's what's gonna be on the line.
And you get and like top 2 or top 4, I can't remember if it's top 2 or top 4, you get invited to Worlds next year.
Yeah.
All right, so the stakes are, I guess, actually fairly comparable to, like...
If it's invite only, it isn't. I mean, it is good.
Yeah, good. Okay, so, all right. I guess people will be more competitive than I was initially like, expecting.
Yeah.
I thought they did away with the free ride to Worlds.
No, they got to get 50 plus. That's, like, the thing now for the...
yeah. If the tournament is 50, people are larger than the distributor, I believe, pays for
the distributor does. Yeah.
All right, then you're probably right. It's
so
probably
UK will have 50 plus easy. Yeah.
I would imagine somewhere right around 50.
Yeah.
Probably. I think there'll be like 60 to 80 probably.
Yeah, and I know they're gonna have some people traveling there too. So you're gonna have some people outside of UK.
Yeah, maybe the numbers will be higher because of the invitational, the invitational nature of Worlds from 2020 onward.
Sure.
I know that announcement definitely has me thinking about Nationals next year. I can't make Nationals this year, unfortunately. It's the same weekend as PAX, but
I am TOing this year, but I would not TO next year if I do not have an invitation. Yeah, it's gonna be weird. Like I'm really interested to kind of see how this all shakes out with L5R because I think it's gonna be the most similar. Because like X-Wing and Destiny are a little bit different because they have like trials and stuff. Like, I'm excited to see how this invitation plays out for L5R, and how many people show up to that first day, like last chance trial.
So it's bizarre that they're having. I mean, do we think they're going to set it up to be sort of like a viewer experience? Because if people are coming to play in the last chance trial, and I know this is off topic, but I'm interested. Do they have to expect people to want to stay around and at least watch the tournament if they're not playing in it? And I know in the past, you had to have a ticket to an event in order to get inside the FFG event center. Do we think that's changing? I mean, otherwise the last chance tournament is basically just a big fuck you to everyone who lives farther than a couple hours away, because they're not going to just fly out for a last chance tournament.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not putting that kind of money.
It's happening the same. L5R is happening the same time that Thrones is happening this year at Worlds, correct?
Pablo says there will be side events in other tournaments for those who missed the last chance tournament, but like if you're not playing the real tournament, I don't know.
Pablo, do you mean official events like the FFG runs, or are these like community run events that are coinciding with Worlds? And you can answer later. We don't have to keep talking about it now, but I would be interested to know.
Official events, you said.
So I mean, that does sound to me like their intention is to make it more of a viewer experience. Like we're going to narrow the field of competitors. It's going to be more elite. The people who want to come and watch and play inside events are welcome to. You know, that's a lot different than what I was hearing at first. And I think I'm more open to the idea of that being the case with Thrones. Although I think
I am not. But
I think it would be better if they just kept it open. But I think having it where people could still come and watch and play inside events is better than not, at the very least.
I agree that it's better, but it still doesn't seem right. Like,
yeah,
I want to go to Worlds with my friends, whether they get invited or not, and hang out and play games. I think like the cool thing about like FFG games in the past, and especially with Thrones, has been like, like players who don't get to travel very much, or players who are new to the game, get to go to Minnesota and play with people like CT and Alex Black and Sam Bratz and these European champions that come over. Like, that's super exciting. I think it's very good for the game in the past. Like, those are some of the stories we've heard from people who are going to Worlds for the first time. And, like, it was exciting for me. Like, it was so exciting for me at Gen Con. But, like, it was exciting for me at Worlds that first year. Like, you just hear so many good stories from people going, like, like, I got paired against Alejandro. Like, it was so cool to meet him. It was so cool to play him. Like,
right.
I got paired
against... I'm not trying to suggest that I think the...
No, but if they're doing something, like, it's better than nothing. I get what you're saying. And we could honestly have an entire episode on this again. And, like, I never run out of things to say about this because it just ultimately breaks my heart.
I think if they want to do an invitational style Worlds event, they should just have an invitational and have Worlds and have them be separate events.
Sure.
If they want like an exclusive invitational,
it could be like a premier series. And
they have GP and Pro Tours.
Yeah.
Magic Fest, whatever the hell you want to call them. But
there's definitely something to be said. It's way different to go to Worlds and be like, well, I was in a building with these people, and it was my first Worlds. And there's a difference between that and being like, well, here are the people I played in my first Worlds, but you'll never like forget that, really.
Correct.
It means a lot more, I think.
I remember everyone at Viper. I'll never forget him.
Fucking dirtbag.
I don't know.
I hate the idea that like if I did get an invite, I would like the last year of 1.0 and like the first year of 2.0, and like I met so many people from, you know, over the pond, and like I'd never met all those people before, and like played with the people I got to play with, and it's like that would never happen again, and that's just not right. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
You'll do have to do
derailed us big time, so I apologize for that.
God, you come back and you're just a cancer to everything.
Wow.
Like always.
Odds on regionals being announced before Gen Con, not high.
So do you think Do you think they're skipping the regionals maybe this year, getting ready for the invitational?
I do not know if there have even been applications sent out. There's been no public applications like there has been in the past.
Yeah, there hasn't.
There's not a whole lot of benefit to speculation on that front, in my opinion.
Correct. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying if they do, is it because they just want to set it up for next year because they're going to be the invitationals? Like regionals is probably how most people are going to get the world, right?
I highly doubt that they're just choosing not to do regionals because of their intentions of how they're going to do them moving forward. So, but really, it's complete speculation. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
no.
Absolutely. All right, so I guess we're predicting the field to be heavily Greyjoy and Stark.
UK Nationals.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've talked about what we're talking about. I mean, I expect some of the top players some of the top creative minds to bring interesting things that counter Stark and Greyjoy, and we're going to talk about that in a bit here. What we think maybe is a good counter to those two factions specifically, but yeah, I mean, if you guessed anything other than Stark and Greyjoy, I mean, you'd be taking long odds, I think.
Yeah.
I definitely will be more Barra and Lannister than your usual stateside.
If some French, if some French go, you'll see some more Barra. I don't know if Hano's going. So.
Anyone have a prediction of who they think's going to take it down?
I'm going for Richard Walker. It's my guy right now.
I assume Mama will play Stark, and I assume Mama will win. But I know what Bamford's playing. I want Bamford to win, but I won't say on air. But I want Bamford to win, but he won't because I know what he's playing. But I don't know. I hope it's a good time. I hope people enjoy it. I've never been there, obviously, but I've never been to the UK Games Expo either. But it's like the second biggest one behind Gen Con, so I'm sure it's just a blast. Also, I think it's cool for the UK Games Expo for like the big gaming companies because UK Games Expo happens before Origins and even before Gen Con, so a lot of these releases are happening there first, which is really cool.
Nice.
For like Euro trash games, which like those are usually my favorite types. So I just want a work replacement. So yeah.
I'll put these guys here. I'll roll dice. I'll generate these resources.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I played a sick game of Robinson Crusoe this weekend.
Oh God, hit me.
Derailed alerts.
Have you played Everdell yet, Alex Black?
No, I have not.
That's a game you can play.
Welcome to the Euro trash to come.
I told you, this is what you guys need a Patreon for, so you can have like an after-hours talk where you just talk about nonsense. All right, so are we done with UK Nets? Does anybody else have anything to say about UK Nets?
Nope.
No.
I don't.
I don't think it'll be any different.
How the fuck do we beat Stark and Greyjoy? One after the other, both? Is there an answer to both at the same time?
I don't think so.
I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see both being answered.
I mean, to beat them, though, the things that you want to do are in those houses already. So it's like, you just have to become one with the machine to be the machine, right?
I know that you guys have said that Stark fealty is correct, but I have seen a lot of non-Stark fealty. So I'm not sure.
I don't think it's correct. I think Stark Reigns is better.
Okay, but they're by and large the same deck, right?
They are not. No, they are not.
Cat decks?
No, they both have Fat Cat in them. Stark Fealty is not a Fat Cat deck. It just has it in it, and it's extra wind power. Stark Reigns is strictly a Mace deck. It is only there to trigger Cat.
Sure, and I don't want the conversation to devolve into like what is the right Stark deck to play. I'm more interested in like, what are people choosing to play.
I also think that people who just think, I think it's easily protected. I think the most criminally underplayed deck in the meta right now is Builders. I think Builders has a good shot against both these decks.
Okay.
I mean, Builders can really shit the bed against any of the Seal Blood variants.
Yeah, I'm not.
There have to be. I mean, I assume there are probably ways to hedge that matchup.
Yeah, it's called Big Vic. I just crushed
So back to my question though. I understand you think Stark Reigns is better, but what do we think the most common variants of Stark are? Stark Fealty and Stark Sea of Blood? and then Stark Reigns?
No, it's Stark Crossing after that. Stark Reigns isn't very popular.
Okay. So 2 of those Stark decks are, I would assume, challenge-based decks because of their agenda, right?
Yes.
But the fealty doesn't have to be, which is why.
I'm not including fealty in that.
Okay. Yep.
So a portion of the Stark field will be Sea of Blood. A portion of the Stark field will be Crossing. And then there's a subset of fealty, which we're leaving to the side for now. And then you have all of the Greyjoy decks, which are heavily challenge-based, right?
Yes, correct.
And that leads me back to Neil's decision.
I guess Drown God is as a known quantity that is not challenge-based.
Drown God's Son, yes.
So we can kind of put that in the same box as, like, Stark fealty. And, like, they probably won't be the largest percentage of those factions, but they exist.
They exist, yeah.
So that leads me back to Neil's decision to play Vera, and sort of my opinion that maybe Vera hasn't been solved yet. Because I think that Vera is actually a great answer to all of the challenge-based decks that we see in the meta right now.
Yeah.
And I understand that they have a lot of underpowered cards, and they're not a very heavily explored faction at this point, but...
I will say that a friend sent me a Vera deck, and I've played nothing but Vera for 2 days now. And it's been good. Sea of Blood sucks sometimes, but... Greyjoy is super easy to beat, and Stark can be tough. But
yeah, I think Vera actually has like gotten over the hump of dealing with the aggro decks, but it has to figure out how to deal with the passive power decks.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, I cannot beat Fat Cat.
Right.
Even with all the reasons, like if they see an answer, I can't beat her. But I've beaten everything else.
And I think obviously the big question mark is we were discussing what our expectations are for percentages of the field that we expect to play Stark and Greyjoy, and the numbers varied, but they were between 50 and 60% for UK Nats. There's still the other 50 to 40% to contend with, right? You build your deck to be...
I think that a good answer is Tyrell Dragon, and people just aren't playing it, but...
I think that...
I'm not
100% sure that I believe
outrace it.
I'm not really sure Tyrell Dragon matches up well against Stark as a whole. Whereas I think Vera has that subset of Stark that it plays well against, the challenge-based Stark decks. I feel like Tyrell Dragon, depending on how you build it, probably really struggles against some of the Stark sort of no-fun aspects.
Yeah, the issue with Tyrell Dragon is, Stark just has, half a dozen cards that just shut it down completely. So,
but
that's a pretty
Tyrell Dragon might be the best deck against everything else other than Stark. So it's a numbers game, right? We say, maybe we think Vera is good against the challenge-based Greyjoy and Stark decks, but that may be at best half the field. So you have to outplay your opponents in the other half, and you may lose games that you weren't expecting to see, and that may cost you your entry into top 8 or what have you.
Yep.
So builders, I agree that I think we see way too little builders in the meta.
Agreed.
At all times. I think that's basically just because it's probably the oldest meta deck that still exists, really. What's...
Lanny Crossing.
What is the Lanny Crossing? But I think I am a little out of touch. But how often do we see Lanny Crossing? And is that deck really older than Builders? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe
I don't know. I've never played a game. I've never played the game where Lanny Crossing's not been close to tier 1.
Yeah, Lanny Crossing's older.
I think
Lanny Crossing still plays 40 cards out of the core set, so...
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think it's fine to put those decks in the same bag as, really good decks that people don't play because they've existed so long and they're just tired of playing them. We're seeing them and they haven't changed that much.
Well, I think people who might want to play Builders are scared off by the Sea of Blood aspect of the meta.
They are for sure, but I do think there's hedges you can take with Builders to be fine. I truly do. And I know a lot of people don't believe me, but I am very biased. I talk to Chase 40 hours a week. But I think Builders Wars to Come is really, really good. It just won a Next event a month ago in this meta.
So we mentioned for a brief time Greyjoy's Son, which I know has had its time.
It's still just insanely good.
Right. And how does that deck match up?
It beats both of them.
And that was, so these are three options. Three excellent,
people just
arguably tier 1
people
decks
don't want to play it. Correct.
Yeah, the thing is,
Vera being the most flimsy of that argument.
Greyjoy Sun probably doesn't have a natural predator if Sea of Blood doesn't exist.
So, Drown God loses to passive power. That's it. It doesn't lose to Greyjoy Sea, it doesn't lose to Stark, it loses to
The days of decks with 0 negative matchups are probably long gone. I mean, I'm not sure we'll ever see a ladies combo deck again, for instance. I mean, one can hope, but...
I love Sam so much, but Sam on that thread today, Sam Whitehead, he was like, we should just unrestrict all the cards. I was like, oh god! I was like, then it's just a coin toss, see who wins marshalling, turn 1 and just wins. Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, I want a Valor, a Viper. Again, I was like, buddy, Viper is not it.
It's not it, yeah.
Do we have any other, does anyone else have any other decks they can think of that really solve the
Targ can beat both of them.
Yeah,
but
Targ.
The issue is
so I can recap. So far we've suggested some sort of bear control, presumably. Builders.
Drown God is the best answer.
And Drown God. Specifically Greyjoy Sun, right? I don't think there's any other viable Drown God build.
Oh, Greyjoy Watchdog.
No.
I'm sure Jesse will argue that there's 6 viable.
Yeah, he's going to argue 6.
I'll change my terminology. Is there one competitive Drown God build?
Green Sight to a lesser extent, probably, but I think Sun is the way to call it if you're going to play Drown God.
So, and then potentially, I don't really agree with the Tyrell Dragon statement because I think it has a really tough time with Stark. I think it probably beats everything else. But if the conversation is what decks have favorable matchups against Greyjoy and against Stark, we've given 3 suggestions. Is there anything else that we can think of that?
I think that if you want,
as far as decks that we know that are known quantities.
I think if you want to play Targ Rain or Targ Field Team, you still can.
Yeah.
You have to play Nightmares and Hands Justice.
Correct.
Or you cannot beat Stark.
Right, really and that's the problem, right? Is no surprises just turns Targ off.
Yeah,
and they have to see it.
You have to cancel the no surprises. You have to.
They have to see it, but when half of them are Sea of Blood, and they can just go get it.
Yep.
Correct.
And you no longer have access to Flea Bottom Second Sons, which was your protection against losing to big ass military challenges all the time.
Correct.
I'm less convinced that Targ is a good option to answer both these decks.
So Martel HRD for me. And then now Martel Cohort.
Martel Cohort is better than Martel HRD. Right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying Martel HRD. I ate Greyjoy alive on the fact that there's no challenges they can do, and then you hit them with either the Poison Coin or the Tears of Lys. You're gonna have to run things like what is that?
I will say that.
What's the 481 that you can't
say? The best Greyjoy card has gotten since the box has been No Surprises.
Yeah.
That keeps every Shadows deck in check. Crushes Greyjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really strong Shadows built out there right now. Martel Lion, Tyrell Shadows, Tyrell Lion, Lanny Sun. There are just a lot of really good Shadows built out there that just get fucking wrecked by No Surprises.
Yeah, Greyjoy's got a hand slap Stark.
Martel decks that I would play if Greyjoy and Stark weren't dominating the meta, but because they are, Cohort's the only Martel deck I would consider taking to a tournament.
Yep.
So I think that sounds like we've kind of run to the end of our ideas about what decks we think have favorable matchups that are known quantities, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. But I think this bear box will shake up some stuff.
For sure.
I really do. I think Bear Rush becomes real, really real. Prince's Promise, it's just there's too many options to really discover, and someone's gonna come up with something just insanely good.
So 3 months from now, are we saying the same thing about Prince that we're saying right now about Sea of Blood ubiquity?
Nope.
No?
I would guess not.
In itself, the agenda is not broken like Sea of Blood is.
with Greyjoy though,
if you look at it,
I'm not saying people are going to say that it's too good, but is it going to be too? Is everyone going to be playing it? Is it going to be too?
No.
Voltron's too easy to shut down in the game. Yeah. I don't think so. No, I really don't.
I would just take a Greyjoy deck.
We're not necessarily assuming that all Prince decks are Voltron.
Exactly, yeah. I would just take a Greyjoy deck, take out the Sea of Blood stuff, put in Maiden's Bane. I mean, getting a stand and a draw in a Greyjoy deck, I mean, that's probably why they're up there too.
Sea of Blood has already drawn you a card, and you're going to blow up their economy.
If we're gonna start with the Prince, if we're gonna start with the Prince that was promised conversation, I think the biggest factor, like the biggest problem I see when you compare it to the other two challenge-based, like the other two, like Reigns and Sea of Blood agendas, is that you're buying a character back, a character out of your deck for winning a power challenge. How many decks that are built going to center around characters that can come and play during the challenges phase? Because if you're not doing that, you're not immediately getting the value from that agenda like those other two agendas were getting. And
it's a fun agenda, and there will be good decks, but it is behind the curve of Sea of Blood.
Yeah.
By far.
I mean, it's like.
Well, I agree with that.
You know how good Sea of Blood is? Is that in every other card game, trading with the cohort is a broken fucking card. Like, it is a broken card. I could just win a challenge and go grab something. And it sees no play because Sea of Blood is too good.
So what if Sea of Blood is restricted?
Then cohort is good again.
But then do we just live in a world full of go fetch your deck?
Did we live in that world before Sea of Blood? We didn't.
No, but cohort is a very different animal.
We didn't because Crossing kept it in check. Like there are equal and opposite answers to these. But the only answer to Sea of Blood is Rickon.
The other thing that I think kept Cohort out of the meta is that Cohort is just inherently a really difficult deck to play because you have so many decision points. Anytime you're tutoring something, and I mean, I'm about to make the argument as to why Sea of Blood is difficult to play, but anytime you're tutoring and something out of your deck and you have myriad options, like you have 10 or 12 options, and you have to make that decision every turn, it can be, I just think it leads to a lot of misplays. It leads to misbuilding. Sea of Blood is obviously a little different. People play, there's basically, 2 or 3 events that you're looking to tutor out of your deck the way that your deck is designed. And based on the scenario, it's not that difficult to grok, which is correct. But Cohort, I just think, is misplayed a lot of the time. And I imagine that's why it probably didn't see a lot of play before Sea of Blood, and now it has Sea of Blood sort of strangling it. I just, to bring this back to Prince of the Promise, I don't see the card being particularly overwhelming in the meta. Now, it's the type of agenda that leads itself well to some sort of combination that could be really good, but that's gonna rely largely on what that's doing. Unless it's doing something really broken, I just don't see it being great as a mid-range deck.
Correct. So Prince's Promise will inherently only be broken as an agenda if the cards it's doing is cheating something into play over and over, or if it's like getting value out of the agenda. In and of itself, it's just a fair agenda that's cool. But like Sea of Blood is inherently a broken card. Like in my opinion, it's just not a fair card.
We've seen the dominance of Reigns of Castamere when it came out. We're now witnessing the dominance of Sea of Blood. I don't think we'll see a day when Prince That Was Promised is dominating it even close to the same level.
Correct. I think it is literally a little bit better than Hollow Hill. You will see good decks, but I think those decks will probably be better with other agendas. I like Prince That Was Promised. I'm going to play it a lot. It is very much my style of agenda. I like Voltron stuff. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. But they just made a fair agenda, which is interesting. And it like Colt is saying that, like, it allows creativity, it allows interesting deck builds, and I like toolbox kind of decks, and like you could make a toolbox out of it. Like I enjoy that, but it's not Sea of Blood. My God.
So I'm fairly unfamiliar with what's been spoiled at this point. what are some of the other major
the card that I love, but I also hate. It's the one I've struggled with the most. Because I love him so much, but I'm going to hate playing against him, is Salvador San.
Salvador San is going to be a real fucker. For sure.
Fuck! 6-cost wall. God damn it. They don't let me do anything cool for too long.
Have you seen the Salvador San, Alex?
Yeah, it's the one that when you play a smuggler, you kneel a location and then you gain that much gold or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It seems really good. I don't know, like, I'm not sure what you're, like, how you're pushing that advantage. I'm assuming it's going to be maybe like crossing, like you were saying, Jesse, where you're using Salvador to really explode out onto the board quickly.
Yep.
And that could be the case.
Yeah.
I mean, do we have enough viable smugglers that you can? I mean, how many smugglers do you have to play in a Salvador San deck?
Haven't like half the guys that we've seen spoiled are either smuggler or OLR, so it's like
sure, and it counts itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the main thing that probably makes it really good. And you might not even have to play any other smugglers, because it might just read play Salvador San and then get some free gold, and you get extra free value where you're kneeling your opponent's location. Yeah. That alone might be good enough for the card to be a 1 or 2 of in some Bear decks, but it might just be broken if you find a way to.
He'll also just allow for jank, and I'm for that.
Yeah, I mean, if at the end of the day the worst case scenario is he's like a free Tricon, we put him in a deck.
Yep.
Right. No, I agree. I think the card is definitely powerful. It just is a matter of.
It definitely annoys certain deck types, though. Like,
it's more a matter to me of are there decks where we play characters to the board over the other character-based, challenge-based decks, or does Bear remain as a faction that's mostly viable as a control faction?
No, I think Bear Rush will be super real.
Yeah, I think Rush and Control will be pretty popular.
I think they will be different, but I think Bear Rush will be super, super real. Like, Bob is nutso.
Now, will you remind myself and the listeners what the Bob does?
CT, what does he do?
I don't know what you're talking about. The Bob doesn't do it. The Bob is a control card.
Yeah, he's a control card.
Wait, which one am I thinking of?
I don't know. You must just be making something up in your head that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah. 7-cost Bob is a control card.
Who draws cards when they do power challenges?
That's Stannis. New Stannis is that's my go-to card.
You're conflating Bob with Stannis. Okay, what does Stannis do?
Stannis is good.
Stannis allows you to draw, once you win a power challenge, you will draw the same amount of cards as the opponent's claim. With cards like Cape Wrath that's been spoiled.
What was the location we saw on the stream where you could do an extra power challenge if you win the first one?
That was Stormlands.
Seems good in crossing.
No, you don't even have to win the first one. You can just do 2
You automatically get, it automatically gives you another challenge.
Yeah.
So
Bear Rose seems busted.
Yeah, so, I mean, Bear Rose cohort. I mean,
Bear's going to be like the greediest of the rush decks. You're going to have a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
That's fine. We got Tyrell cards, so we got money.
But I mean, like,
there's
a lot of potential in there.
Today's decks are greedy too. I mean, that's all I saw, and I'm sure you saw it at Kubla. It was just greed. You just watch people.
I feel like at its very core, like at the end of the day, the rush deck that gets to do the most power challenges for the highest claim is going to beat the other rush decks.
Exactly. Yes.
So we'll see how it pans out, but.
I think inherently getting an extra challenge. Look at Lanny, i.e. Lanny Crossing. That helped them out, right? Just getting to do 4 challenges helps a crossing deck automatically.
Yeah.
And then all so happens for Bear, they get the most important one, the one that takes power from your opponent.
It's also cool that, like, if you Cape Wrath and you're playing against another crossing deck and, like, they have to do power challenges no matter what, whether they're winning or losing them, and you're drawing 1 or 2 cards, if they flip a 1 claim slot and you have Cape Wrath out and you block with Stannis, you get to draw 2 cards for stopping their power challenge.
Exactly.
Or
you let it go because they need to feed your house. They have no power. You let them have 2 claim. thanks. Now I have 2 power challenges for 4 claim or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the worst feeling in the world if you're sitting across from Barrett Crossing, right? And they have 2 claim power challenges and you have no power in your house card already. Like, the game is over.
Yeah.
Power challenges are the best challenge. That's how you win the game.
Exactly.
Exactly. So it's like that's gonna be the thing that puts Barrett in the arena, right? Like, we've never had the house that's just like, oh, I'm a rush deck and I get 2 power challenges. That's crazy good.
And then
they could have 3 power challenges if they play
March on Winterfell.
Relentless Assault.
Or Relentless Assault. Yeah.
Or any of Jim Hanson's favorite cards.
Which Relentless Assault will probably be the most used because it's a free event. Just kneel your faction card or your faction card. So,
yeah.
But
just like if Barrett, what if Barrett just takes 15 power from you in one turn because they had 3 power challenges? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you can also go to the middle point where you're doing Bear Sun, where you are a rush deck but also a control at the same point. You're controlling 1 challenge that matters.
Yeah.
And Stannis can't be killed by an event, so Sea of Blood away, he'll just stand there and take it to the
Yeah, that is a good question. Like, if Sea of Blood remains popular, how does Sea of Blood deal with Stannis if he is at least reset? If they've covered the reset, how do you get that there?
How does anyone truly deal with the rightful ruler of the Southern Kingdom?
I agree.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I knew it was coming. I was waiting.
Someone needs to remind people on Facebook every day that they just can't kill Stannis with events. Like,
I mean, I'm assuming they'll probably just blow up all your locations. But...
I'm actually pissing Kid off. It actively upsets him.
Yeah.
He's one of my best friends, and he's now blocked me on Facebook. I had to show him how to just.
Here's what I don't understand.
Not follow it.
Here's what I don't understand. It's fucking Facebook. Like, I have thousands of posts in my feed every day, and I scroll right past them.
Yeah.
Why do people care?
That's you can't scroll past. Yeah. You have to know.
He can't. Yeah.
It'll be harder to scroll past if everyone in the community.
People just want a reason to be upset about shit these days, and I guess you've given them a reason, Jesse. So good on you.
Jesse's probably coded that every time Kid opens his Facebook, it's the first post.
It's the top one.
It's the top one.
I wish I could wake up to that every day.
Yeah.
Kid won't accept the rightful ruler.
I mean, I know it makes me happy when it's my first post at 4:30 in the morning when I wake up. It's just like, this is going to be a good day. It's Stannis.
I've kept it going for a while. I don't plan to stop anytime soon.
I think you've gotten Staten on it. He now tells his wife every day, "Hey, it's Stannis." Yeah. So I think you are spreading the joy, the love.
A few of my friends think I'm the secret admin behind the group, and I'm not. I promise, I'm not.
Too far predates your love of the group.
So do we have any more Bear Box cards we want to discuss? Like I said, I haven't seen really any of the spoilers, so I'm not going to be a good idea guy on this.
I will say that, like, if
wait, how do we think Parlay is going to affect the Sea of Blood crossing meta? Right?
What's Parlay do?
Huh?
What does it do?
Oh, it's so it's the Barrel Royal plot. It's got like middling stats, but you get to name a challenge type when you flip it, and nobody can do that challenge that turn.
Nobody, including yourself. Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that just worse than? Isn't that? I suppose it's better than Calm in the fact that they can't do military challenges at all.
Yeah, I mean that's probably what you.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good plot. Yeah.
You could second turn. That'd be probably a second turn plot.
Especially in these bear control decks that we're talking about, that probably rarely do military challenges at all. I could see it definitely being good.
Then you have privileged position in the name of your king, Stannis. Those are 3 things that'll just shut Sea of Blood off.
Also, Black Cells is the fucking stone cold nuts.
Black Cells is insane.
Yeah.
I love that card.
Is that coming in the box?
No, that's a card we already have.
You
sent me a deck list 2 days ago with Black Cells.
Oh, Black Cells, not I heard Black Sales.
Yeah, Sales, right.
God,
Cells.
Don't fucking tease us.
That's a very different card, man.
Oh.
That's a very different card.
Oh.
Don't tease us.
Don't tease. Don't even talk about it. Oh,
Jesse's Wausau accent is really coming through.
It's a southern accent.
Black Files.
It's the accent of wherever the fuck you live right now.
I brought the card out of my shadows and triggered my black sail. And I couldn't stand her meal no more. I don't know.
Honestly, do we have a release date for the Bear Box?
June 6th is the street date, so next week.
Very cool.
I mean, every
so not in time
came out has drastically changed the meta. I think the Bear Box would probably be the same. Maybe not the Night's Watch box, but it did give us filters. Even though Banned Stronghold was an F card, according to some people.
Who said what about what?
I remember somebody Banned Stronghold an F rating when the Bear Box or the Watch box came out. So. Yeah, Alan Splash, that was you.
What?
Talking about your infamous white book.
Except that I'm shitting on you and acknowledging. But no, like, every box has been pretty impactful in the meta. I think the Bear Box will probably do something cool at least. I hope, right? Something's changed.
We can hope.
There's the Maester's plot that was spoiled that I really like.
Which one was that?
I just found it in the article, whatever, Outlet 301 scheme. When the effects of Wind Revealed ability would initiate the faction card any unique Maester character to cancel those effects.
Now, how come you like this card, but you didn't like Someone Always Tells when it was everywhere?
Because I like Conclave.
Okay.
And
I don't accept that.
I'm just like I'm into kneeling some Maesters, dogs. I've been kedgering and just violating people's plot decks recently. I just can't wait. I want to play in a tournament and just touch people's plot decks so I get my fingers on them.
Oh, so that's it. I guess the Barra Green dies because Greyjoy's just like flips Outwit and yells Maester Mirror and Mirror and it's just like, fuck you, Parlay at Storm's End. I'll do all the military challenges I want. Thanks, Jesse. You just put home stream.
Seems like the nut plot. Seems like a fair plot.
It doesn't seem fair to me because Greyjoy has way too many Maesters for some reason.
They have two.
They've got they have several Maesters.
Fucking Martell has like 9 Maesters.
Yeah, but Martell's cool.
Martell is cool. Kedry's the fucking nut.
Fine.
What?
Alrighty.
He lets you play or Someone Always Tells him plot phase.
AJ's over here talking nonsense. He says the Stark Box wasn't impactful from what I can remember when it came out. Are you fucking kidding me?
It won Nationals, the first Nationals.
You remember the domination of Europe that occurred when the Stark Box dropped? It was like Stark all day, all
day.
Night.
Yeah, it was all day in Europe, for sure.
Well, I think that kind of leads us to the end here. But it has been so good being back. We'll be back in 2 weeks on Thursday at 9 instead of 10, hopefully. And we'll have our actual screen up with Mr. Buzz. But thank you so much, Aaron, for doing it tonight. Aaron, you got anything fun going on this next week?
Working on my house now. Last week was fun. Now it's work. But, hey, not next week, but there is this cool thing end of June called Disaster at Crafters. We need less than 20 people.
Yeah, promote your tournament, dog.
Yeah. It's my tournament. My name's Jerry Crane, and I won it 2 years in a row. No, if you guys can make it to Indy, I've been tagging a lot of people. It's a lot of fun. I haven't been to Metazoa yet, but I've heard great things, and then I haven't spun the wheel.
I'm definitely not playing New Wall.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely want to spin the wheel too.
The wheel is sweet.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to a CT tournament in the Midwest, prizes are going to be nuts.
It's insane.
This one's going to be big. It's a cool format. It's unique. It's fun. Something to mix it up. You will get to see every house, which is good testing. It's a month before Gen Con.
It'll be the first big tournament with the Bear Box legal.
Correct.
Yep, and we will probably be in the Gen Con meta at that point. Because if a pack comes out, then it will be legal, right?
Yes. Anything that is out will be legal.
So we will most likely be in the Gen Con meta, which is super exciting. So yeah, come out. I cannot wait. We'll probably bring in 2 cars from Wassa.
Yeah. Especially if you want to play Stark or like Stark, Greyjoy, Martell, Lannister, all Tony players.
If you're gonna play Night Swats, get fucked.
Night Swats, there are, and now as of today, Tyrell are full. But don't let that discourage you from coming anyway and maybe branching out into a house maybe you don't normally.
Yeah, and if you want to play one of those houses, then just convince 16 people to sign up. Then we can open up another slot for you, dog.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
If we break 16 more people, then we'll actually have to add another round of houses. So.
CT, you got anything fun going on this next week, buddy?
I think I'm just playing some Thrones. We've got like several people in the indie area that are new, and like a couple people that haven't played in a while that want to get together. So.
Awesome.
I wish we would get these fucking like new kits. These kits that are just like show up and play and you get the promos, because I think
grinders.
people would be eating that shit up if we could just get those in hand already.
Sure.
So.
Alex, you got anything fun going on? Man, Alex, it is so good to hear your voice again. That soft, sultry, fatherly tone.
I think you're the only one that's ever described me in that way.
Oh God, I love it.
For sure.
And as soon as I heard you were coming back,
I was never gone.
I said, "Oh, Dad's back."
Dad's back.
CT's been a tyrant while you've been gone.
Well, Mom has been a softie, all right? I'm back here to crack the whip.
Yep. I appreciate it twice tonight. All right. Not the rails, guys.
Remember the night that Alex said he was going to go out for cigarettes and he never came back? Well, terrible dads. Alex Black came back.
Yeah, so Friday I've got going to a last podcast on the left live show. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of them, but they're funny. And then just trying to get my feet on the ground with Thrones meta. I have been away for a few months. I prepped heavily for Thrones War, and then unfortunately wasn't able to go due to some family emergency stuff. I've been a little bit out of the loop for the past couple months, so there are definitely some new things, but I've been playing about 4 or 5 games a day. Don't have any local tournaments that I know of coming up. Definitely hoping that regionals get announced and that we have one out here, so that I have something to play in this summer, because like I said, I can't go to nationals and I probably am not going to Gen Con, so yeah, that's about it. But
you go to Worlds though, right?
I'll always go to Worlds as long as Worlds will have me. That's kind of the I'm hoping that if they go to this invitational style, they maybe have a caveat for players with card designs. Maybe they just get an auto invite, so that can be a super fucking just scummy, never played.
Just got to see Alex swing his dick before we got off the air.
I'm just like, if anybody from FFP's out there listening, I'm just saying, that seems like, it could be a pretty good idea.
I agree with you, because if it's invite only, Dark Knight lives in Saskatchewan. He cannot play in any tournaments before Worlds.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's good to be back. Hopefully I can get on one of these episodes where we got Buzz and the full kit and caboodle.
Daryl, he's always been here.
Yeah.
Daryl's the child that we haven't seen for a decade and a half. Hopefully he shows up at Christmas.
Daryl's got his worst to come since day one shirt on. He just was like, I was on the first episode, so fuck you, and then like he just never does it again and just wears the shirt.
Is the website still live? I really want the website to still be live.
I don't think so. I did not pay to renew it the second year for sure. I updated it the first month and never did another thing with it. I just got really busy.
I've sent a lot of dead links, so I wouldn't have my hopes up.
But yeah, no, thank you guys so much for joining us. Yep, I can't wait to see people at Gen Con. Disaster Crafters is before that. There's a good chance I'll be at Dance of Dragons, which is moving to Philly on the 22nd. Good chance I'm doing that. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, we love you all. We'll see you next in 2 weeks.
See ya.